Call this to order. The Hinesburg Board of School Directors meeting, November 17th. Any adjustments to the agenda? I think I'm going to do one. I'm going to add an executive session in case someone wants it. So I guess that'll be 10.0, and then 11 will be adjournment. Thank you, Bill.
So there are two other things too.
Yes, go ahead.
One is 5.7, the Act 46 committee report. Should be moved up top.
Yeah. 5.7 is
Then,
now, let's call that, I don't care. What do you want to call that, Mike?
Act 46 committee report?
No, but where should we move it? How about
3.0.
3.0?
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
And then, so I guess this would be a new 5.7, just hand out baseline budgets.
Ooh. Yippee. All right, thank you.
You seem excited.
Thrilled! Thrilled. All right, so thank you for that correction that wasn't on the agenda. This is the second time we have welcomed our CVU directors to the local meeting. Thanks, guys, for coming to hear a report on the Act 46 Study Committee. There is some material in the packet at page 28 and 29, but our esteemed chair of that committee is sitting to my right, and I am also on that committee, so I'm happy to answer any questions too. Do you want to give a brief summary?
Sure, I'll give a brief summary. We'll post these publicly so you'll be able to access them, but just to let you know the work that's been going on with the board, with the study committee, we've met the full study committee 6 times, beginning September 28th. We've broken some of our work out to really task it into communications, governance, and financial subcommittees. And those committees have individually had 7 meetings, so altogether we've met at least 13 times in a very short period of time. And with each meeting, we've been very productive in moving our work forward. So last night was one of our meetings where we decided to just start putting stuff down on paper so that we can have something that we can start drafting to so that people can really start responding to it. Some of the work that we did last night was taking prior week's work, subcommittee work, and just articulating some of our guiding principles and some of our articles for merger, draft articles for merger. So some of the guiding principles, it's nothing new, stuff that we talk about all the time. It's using policies to ensure equity, equitable opportunities, efficient use of resources, and maintain some flexibility for local initiatives. That's something that's been common for a lot of our conversations. Of course, we all value offering programs that are of value to the community at a cost that the community is willing to continue to support. We want to promote transparencies in systems so that the budgets are understandable, policies are understandable, roles, responsibilities, who does what, that there's clarity there. We would use some of our current mechanisms for communications and continue to enhance that. That's something that we've really learned as we need to, as our boards, we need to work together for promoting our public communications. So, for example, an enhanced web presence related to budgets. And to support the work of a consolidated board, we would need to really ensure that board members have some enhanced training to help them with that work, because it would really be policy driven, a lot of the work. We would define policies and then work with administrators on accountability issues. So those are some of the guiding principles, and we'll articulate that with more detail. Some of the articles of merger, if you've seen any of the articles of merger for other SUs in the state, they tend to be very brief and short. They're one or two sentences, sometimes a bit more. Some of the points that we really need to, that we've spent a lot of time deliberating that might be of interest to people tonight would be related to advisory districts versus who's necessary. So we've decided that Charlotte, Hinesburg, Shelburne, Williston in a vote would be necessary. St. George would be an advisory district for any vote going forward. Obviously, operations would be grades pre-K-12. Assets, liabilities, shared, everything goes into one pot. Board size, the maximum size could be 18. We deliberated between 12 and 18 and landed on 12. And it's proportional based on 2010 census. And that works out to 2 Charlotte, 2 Hinesburg, 3 Shelburne, 4 Williston, and 1 St. George. One of our articles related to contracts, of course, we would honor existing contracts, and we just need to note that next year is start of negotiations for teachers' contracts. So that typically would start in the fall of 2016. School configurations, student mobility, student placement issues. We're going to have another discussion about this at our December 8th meeting. If you want to tune into it, you can observe the discussion through Google Hangout or come and watch the meeting. They're all open. But we want to make sure that we have the lexicon down, that we're all saying the same thing when we say student mobility and configuration. We have a sense that we want to provide some assurance in the communities that their kids are not suddenly going to get moved around. And so what does that look like? We need to articulate that a little better. And then just one more piece I'll add is community engagement has been a big part of our conversations. And so how would we ensure that there's community engagement, just doing some brainstorming, focused presentations, budget buddies. Part of this is how do you move forward with a budget with different entities and so forth, using surveys, moving meetings around perhaps, warning policies and having some local discussions on particular topics and so forth. So community engagement would continue to be something that we would work on. One of the things that we need to talk further about would be transition planning. You've got 2 sets of boards in operation for a period of time. One would be a consolidated board and one would be the current existing boards. How would that work? Keith is in a leadership role with our subcommittee on governance, and so part of his work with our study committee is helping facilitate our discussions around that. So Keith, you want to add anything?
Thank you. Yeah, I would just like to focus on 3 things. Thank you very much for that thorough discussion, presentation on sort of where we are. There's a lot of issues involved in this. So the 3 things that I want to stress are, first off, nothing's been decided yet. Mm-hmm. This is a study committee. We haven't decided to do anything yet. We haven't decided anything. Although there might be some recommendations on the table, nothing's been decided yet. The second thing is, part of that decision-making process is community engagement, as Colleen mentioned, and I'll talk about it when we talk about next meetings, but just for the record and for anyone that's listening, the first Hinesburg forum to talk to the community about Act 46 Study Committee is on Monday, November 30th at 5:30, which will immediately precede the first official budget meeting of this board. There'll be more information about that forthcoming. The third thing is board engagement. That's why you guys are here, and we want to make sure the non-committee members that are on the Hinesburg board are also aware of what's going on, because we value your input in this process as well. To that end, that's why we're giving you these monthly updates at our board meetings. The way the process has been outlined for what we would propose to do is we need to put together a report and the articles of agreement or articles of merger that we would propose, and we will give it to you guys when it's ready.
Our goal is the first week of January.
Our
It would be
goal is the first week of January.
For boards.
For boards to look at and then solicit feedback.
January
We-
19th.
January 19th, which I need to make another adjustment to the agenda in a minute. We were proposing to add a board meeting on January 19th where we can talk about any comments and feedback that you have before the Act 46 Study Committee finalizes the paperwork and submits it to the AOE.
So probably, process question versus content questions.
Yeah.
Last night we focused a lot on content, what would be part of the recommendations. A lot of what we've done prior to that is focusing on process, and often when this is introduced, people want to understand the process initially, and what does that mean? So. Ray, do you have a question, comment?
I appreciate time you guys are putting into this. It's a lot of meetings at a busy time of year, so thanks so much.
Can I just make a note that there's a website that we're trying to upload information on a regular basis, so everything that we're looking at would be there. You can get to it by Act 46, ACTE 46.cssu.org. And as we put out information, we'll start making sure that that's on every single document so that people can find it. Within that website, there's a link to provide questions or comments, if anyone has questions or comments. And there's a lot of information that still needs to be uploaded, and we've got a committee meeting tomorrow morning, and we'll get it up to date, but there's quite a bit of information there already. So that's Act 46.cssu.org.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
I think, probably there are a couple places where there's a lot of interest that I've heard from other people is, the board configuration, how does that happen? So, the size, what happens with the voting? So we've got a vote in March in town meeting, and board members get elected for our regular slate of board members that need to fill different slots. And then, if there is a vote, if we go forward with consolidation, there'd be a separate vote that's related to whether or not we go forward with consolidation. And then at that point, board members would be nominated and they would be on the ballot. So there could potentially be 2 cycles of someone putting a petition in for getting elected to the board. One would happen town meeting day in March, and that would be the regular board. Another could potentially, given our timeline that we're working with right now, might be May. So there might be, if someone's interested in running for the board, they could keep that in the back of their mind. Okay.
All right. Thank you again, Ray. Now you get to go do the very worthy work of CVU.
The big school.
It's nice having you here.
Thanks.
Fine to see you all.
We should have been doing this all along.
Yeah, we can just switch our allegiance over to you guys.
That's what we just talked about. Right?
That's what we're buying.
Exactly. So I do need to revisit and do another adjustment to the agenda. We need to add a new 7.2, voting on adding a January 19th meeting. So we'll come back to that. All right. I see we have 2 budget buddies here. Thanks, Tina and Paul, for coming. Elizabeth sent me an email. She is feeling under the weather, so she was not going to attend. Audience and communications. It looks like they're all board members, administrators, budget buddies, or presenters. So we don't really have audience and communications, so why don't we jump right into presentations? It says 4.0. I've lost track of renumbering it, but let's go with that. How's that?
All right, so
Tonight is physical education and athletics. So we have our two wonderful PE teachers, Cindy Stanley and Chris Shackett. And Kate is our new athletic director. So they're here to present their programs and talk about, and Chris especially, it's his first year here, and he might have some great insight also for us. And I think they're going to start. I don't know which one of you is going first.
Well, we did not do a presentation. We just have some things that we'd like to share with you. We're off to, I mean, this is the first time we've worked together, but we're off to a really, really good start. We seem to have the same philosophy of education. We seem to have, we're working very well together. We've tried many new things this year, both for the elementary, but mostly for the middle school. I think the middle school there's been a real change in the middle school. We're teaching them a lot of skills, and then from the skills we do games. We're staying away from the more traditional games of softball and kickball and soccer, and not kickball, but soccer and things like that, and playing games that are using the skills that we're teaching them. We also have a blog. We're pretty good at uploading. Chris did bring this with him, so I appreciate it. It's great. I tried to start a blog before and it didn't work out, and this is awesome. So we are constantly uploading. I was actually before here, I was trying to get one on, but I didn't get it. Let's see, what else was mine?
I'm just going to say that the blog's open to the public. Yep. It's located on the Hinesburg Community School webpage under curriculum. Go to physical education. There's a nice link that says HCSP blog. Yep. We try to get 1 to 2 updates a week. We try to vary the grades. We both see K through 8 varied throughout our day. So each week we've tried to feature a different grade. We haven't gotten to all the grades yet. We've sent it to a few classroom teachers to get it sent home in their Friday newsletter so that parents can see this. And just trying to get more exposure, having just an open door in the gym, show what we do indoors and outdoors.
If you want, we're trying to recreate together. We're trying to recreate this new PE program. We both, like I said before, have the same philosophy. We really base a lot of our teaching on fundamental movement skills of throwing and catching, kicking, running. Real fundamental skills. And from there they grow. The older kids obviously are not sitting there doing the same thing the littler kids are doing. They're doing it much more advanced. But those skills are the ones that they need to work on all through elementary and middle school, so that they're ready to be able to come into high school and take on the sports. A lot of outdoor sports are going on, and we don't need to do those in our middle school program. We don't feel.
A goal of those skills that Cindy's touching on is just every activity that we do, any day you walk in, any one of these posts, it's our goal with the students is lifetime fitness. So if we can get them to enjoy an activity, hopefully they do it outside of school, hopefully they teach friends, summer camps, summertime, vacation time, after school time. And these are all simple activities that we try to just make able for them to recreate, make them feel like they enjoy movement in our class so they can take it outside of school.
So can I get up and move? Can I get up and move? So just one of the things we had started with. So we had started with a lot of cooperative games, and also, but the first real skill unit we've been working on is throwing. So just bear with me as I scroll down here, because I left my glasses on the other.
And yeah, so we had 3 main themes so far up until November. It was cooperatives to start the year, getting kids to work together, learning different people in their class that they might not interact with on a daily basis. And the third one is just fitness. We throw in a fitness activity, game, etc. once every 2 weeks for the students.
So, one of the fitness games we have here, this is Log Jam, which is the 4th graders. So what they need to do, and Chris, I learned this from Chris, he talks as he's showing it. I didn't do it until halfway through doing it, so you won't know what's going on. But they've got to work together to stay on the spots and move from one side to the other.
This is 4th grade, right?
This is 4th grade, right. So this is just like a cooperative unit.
The goal here is to get from one spot on the left all the way to the other on the right without touching your feet, as you can see, to the cement. And if you fall, you just start over back in your original spot and keep working, problem solving until you figure it out.
And they talk about it, they strategize beforehand, and then they move. Doing this with 8th graders would be probably silly, so we didn't.
Meaning they couldn't get it.
Well, yeah, they didn't get it. But for a cooperative game for 8th grade, Chris, what's a good one?
You're in September, maybe. You could show that's a 6th grade class, I think.
Yeah, these are pictures, these are the 6th grade classes playing building blocks.
Building blocks, yeah.
So they had to move different ways down the gym, and then, they had to all be connected, and they had to all agree on it, and it couldn't be done before. So that's why you saw them dragging across the gym, and they skip and run. What's this? Frisbee unit. So then the next unit we did was throwing. So the younger kids were doing like the first and second, they were doing underhand throws. Whereas the 4th grade, they would get into Frisbee, and one of the games was can jam. I don't know if anybody's ever played can jam. So they loved it. We have these trash cans, so it's a little bit different. So they would just practice can jam. But as the game went on, their accuracy and their aim got so much better.
They're throwing it to a partner across who has to deflect it into the trash can. This does go along with when Cindy said throwing is a skill.
Yeah.
And so we added in frisbees, balls, many different implements to get them to enjoy the hand-eye coordination learning.
Yeah. I'm trying to find one. I know we should have listed exactly the ones you were doing here. This is a good one. This volcanic eruption. It looks, and we start in it's a throwing and catching game, and they start with the kindergartners in the 1st grade in a mat, and they just throw the balls out, then the kids throw them back in, and you would not believe how much fun they have. They throw, and the kids try to catch, but then as the kids get older, they have to catch. Now they're going to have to catch the ball, so they're tracking the ball and they're trying to catch it. So 5th grade, this is a good one. They stand, and all sorts of things are in there.
There's footballs, frisbees, noodles, yarn balls, balls the size of basketballs but a little bit softer.
And then we put who's in there throwing them?
There's like eight students that we put in there. We trust them to be in there.
As long as things are coming out, we figure it okay. So that's just like a sprinkling of it. And, we don't have to go through everything. But, so they're throwing, but then they're practicing their skills, but they're not even realizing that they're practicing them. So.
Cindy, I don't know if you were going to talk about this, but when you are doing 2 classes at once in the gym now, which is you're doing a lot more team teaching.
Yeah. We are. We have always had 2 classes in the gym. But right now, like Chris had said earlier, we both have K through 8. So instead of, when we sit down to plan, we have a shared plan book. We have our shared planning, so we share the Google Doc, and I plan for K through 4, and he plans for 5 through 8. And that way, we don't have to plan for all those grades individually. And also, we know what we're always doing. So I can come in, and Chris will have planned something for one of my classes, and I'm fine. I know what I'm going to do. And so the kids, much more, it's a continuous learning process for the kids. Granted, we have different teaching styles, but we still are teaching. And then when we come together with the kids together in the classes, it's almost like we don't even really need to talk to each other about who's going to teach. One of us will take the lead, the other person will stand behind.
That's what I was going to say about the team teaching, is that if I plan a 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade lesson, if we have 40 to 45 5th graders come in, I usually take the lead because I found the activity. I know it a little bit better, as well as if we have a kindergarten combined class of 35, 40 kids, Cindy will take the lead. Technology, teaching technology this year, a big thing. We both bought wireless headsets that we wear a battery pack, and we wear it right here, kind of like you'd see at a concert. Yep. And it goes through the speakers on the walls. And so we both have good voices right now because of that. Yep. We haven't had to raise them at all.
Not singing voices, not singing voices. Not screaming anymore now. But really, usually the first week after my voice, I keep like this. But this year, it's been great. And Chris did come with a great sound system. So it's like there's a lot of, you heard the music in the video, so we always have music. It's a wonderful thing. And I think the kids love it. If we don't have the music on, the first thing is, turn on the music. Where's the music?
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Your addition of the conflict corner, too, has been a huge thing.
Yeah, I guess with those big groups, when it's 2 of us to 40 students, you have to come up with some management skills, best practice techniques. So we have a signal that we use. If you have 40 kids running around, in a loud manner with music. If you stop the music, you have to get away to get them to be quiet. So we have that. We've taught the students that. We also have found a couple cool ideas. We have something called a conflict corner, where some days it feels like our job, and not just phys ed teachers, any teacher, you're just putting out fires, it seems like, with kids coming up and telling you, so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that. And so we've taught them that if you have a problem in our class, you take the student they have a problem with to the conflict corner. It's actual corner in our gym with a big poster that talks about how to solve a problem. And so we sat all of our classes down, elementary. We haven't done this with middle school yet. But they bring them over and they tell them exactly what's going on. The other student has to listen, and they try to work it out on their own. Any lesson objective that we have is teaching life skills, and one of those is definitely problem solving, learning to interact with one another. We find that not every student comes to school with those skills.
Right, and they've been doing a pretty good job of it. You know, they'll go over there. You know, of course, if there's anything having to do with bad language or any kind
Physical
of hitting,
violence.
that's us. And we've stressed that. You know, anything to do with that. But it's like such and such cheated. Then it's like, well, did you talk to him in the conflict corner? And we also have a rule that you have to go, no matter whether you thought you did it or not. So if I asked Kate to go to the conflict corner and she said no, then we wouldn't be in trouble if we went together. But if she didn't go, then
you got to talk to one of us because you're not willing to solve your problems.
And it's definitely starting to transfer out to the playground too, where kids are starting to.
so. And we've talked to them about that too. How it's amazing that you could use this skill other places besides the gym. And we also have done some. We have some self-assessment posters up. That when they leave, there's a wow, a good job, a keep trying, and a, need more effort.
We make them give an honest answer, and
Yep.
they just high five.
They
It's
high-five
just
and they leave.
four posters that really says wow with a smiley face. Good job with something, needs more work, and they honestly have to hit how they feel they did that day in class.
And the kindergartners the other day said, "What are the kids hitting over there? What can we do?
The-
Can we do that
The
too?"
higher you hit on the poster, the better the day you had. And we'll teach you the words soon.
We've been trying to integrate with different classroom teachers. We're doing Greek Olympics right now. The fourth graders are doing Greece, ancient Greece. So we have had a week of, it's tough this week. We have to play. I don't know if anybody's aware of that, but we are. And it's, so we have it on hold for a week, but we're doing Greek Olympics. They're javelin throwing with noodles, and they're shot putting with foam balls, and discus with the frisbee. And it's pretty cool. I know was Brady talking about it?
Yeah, Tom Solomon talks about it all the time.
Yeah, so it's been, we're trying to integrate. We have the family dance coming up, and we'll teach dance before that. So we're trying to integrate with the classroom teachers, so. But that's probably, we could go on, because it really is a good program this year. It's been really fun working together. And
I've really enjoyed my start at Hinesburg. It's been a wonderful transition.
Can you remind us of the frequency with which the students have class?
we have, well, it's a little different this year.
Well, in general, K through 6 is twice a week for 40 minutes. 7th and 8th graders get us for a trimester in PE. They see us 3 days a week for 40 minutes. But when that's a select group though. It's confusing because they do get PE all year round in 7th and 8th, but for one trimester, each student gets an intense 3-day schedule of PE. And then when they're not in that trimester, they're either in health, art, or
then there's one little group. Yeah.
And then and that's when we talk about the combined classes. If they're not in that trimester class, they're in 2 days a week with a double class of about 40 kids with Cindy and I.
So what do you mean by intensive?
That for 7th and 8th, we are doing a fitness testing program. It's called Fitnessgram. All the other CSSU middle schools do it. So that I teach the trimester PE class. So throughout the trimester, they're learning how to do curl-ups, which is a version of sit-ups. They're learning the running test, which is the pacer, which is a VO2 max test. They're learning a sit and reach test to test their flexibility, a trunk lift test, and a push-up test. So it's a battery of 5 tests that we're running them through. And the culmination, which we just did last week, because that's the last week we're inside because we're out this week with the play, was they actually take the fitness test. And I don't know, being new, I don't know if CVU wants those, but we'll have a nice formal printout to give to the CVU teachers for those 8th graders. What's that?
Do you do it pre and post? Or? Too much.
No,
It's
I
a
didn't.
lot.
I didn't
Some of
for
the
this
schools don't.
trimester.
Yeah.
Maybe in future trimesters, yes, but there's plenty of time to practice
Yeah.
in those 3 days to get better. And that was only part of the class. We did a
That
few.
wasn't everything.
We did a racket sports unit where they did badminton, tennis with me, and again they got 3 days a week of that for about 4 weeks, and they did cooperative games with me as well. And then the past 2 weeks they just did the testing.
So we've always had trimesters with because I teach health too, so we've always had trimesters with health, not always, but recently with health and art, and then family consumer science. And then that family consumer science got, unfortunately got cut. And then it was, I can't remember exactly what we did last year, but didn't work well as this year is. And now this year, what we're doing is we're taking all the 7th and 8th graders, and PE is part of the trimester rotation. But we didn't want the kids only to have PE one they couldn't.
Right.
So then they're in the other 2 days.
Right.
So he gets a small group 3 times a week when I have health.
Mhm.
So it works out. Actually, this schedule has been great. We have the middle school kids in the morning, then we have a 15-minute break, and then we have the K through 6.
That was something we wanted to
Yeah,
say
we
for
did.
sure.
That was really, it really works well. And we have actually have them for homeroom this year too. So we get the kids at 10 of.
Yes, 7:45,
Yep.
7:50, they roll into the gym off the bus or wherever they come from, and for 15 minutes we get to just chat with them, ask them how it's going, and then the announcements come on, and generally they're either jump roping or shooting baskets or hanging out with us. So that's been a new addition for me, for sure.
And for me, and for all of us. It's
Yeah.
really good. So, have you any questions for us? Anything else? Have we covered everything you've ever wanted to know about our business process?
I have a couple. First, my daughter Ellie, on the shuttle run, told me she thought she was going to throw up afterwards. So,
Yes.
so excellent.
Well, she came up to class and
I didn't know where you're going with that.
She was, no, you pushed her, which I like. Kate, I'd like to say, my wife would be, I'd be remiss if I didn't say thanks for the communication and the website, scheduling, all that stuff. It's been a real bonus, so thank you very much for that. It's been helpful. I have a question. So I kind of went on the CVU website and looked at the rosters of their sports teams. And this wasn't,
We're gonna do sports, this is.
We're still at- yeah.
Presentation.
Oh,
We're still
okay.
on
But
PE.
we're just PE.
okay,
Just PE.
Sorry, we
She's
should
got a whole thing.
okay, sorry.
That's
It's okay.
I thought we were done.
Yeah.
Oh,
What grade, maybe it's off topic, what grade does health start?
6. And I have them once a week. So it's pretty introductory.
Yep.
But we try to touch upon different things, and then 7th grade is 3 days a week for trimester, and 8th grade is 3 days a week. Well, 3 days a week for trimester. So,
And Chris is also working hard to get himself endorsed in
Mhm.
health.
Yep.
Also, so it will give even more flexibility to the schedule, which is great.
and you'll get a letter about everything that I'm going to teach, don't worry.
I just want to know when to give myself.
Well, next year they'll get something, I think they get something in 5th grade.
5th grade,
but
yeah.
not meant for me.
Yeah, that's
Not health
that's
itself.
that survey that we were upset
No,
about
that's
last year.
right,
It's done it.
So,
No, that's great, thanks.
sure.
I don't want to open a can of worms,
I'll go for it.
but I'm going to open the door. I would like some feedback on our facilities.
We do have that in here in our, in our notes that we came up with. Well, I'll tell you from where I came from, it's the nicest gym in the world. I have a lot of perspective from my other jobs that I've had. I love teaching in the gym, the outdoor facilities, the outdoor tennis court, which becomes not a tennis court, just an outdoor teaching.
Right, that's great.
We have that inline skating rink beyond the tennis courts, which has been a blast for certain lessons. We have a couple of long-term goals of facility enhancements. Is that where?
It would be, I mean, the thing is, I think that what we did have the 2 new basketball hoops put up. We've had those old clunky things we're finally taking out, which is, thank you.
That was over the
That
summer.
was over the summer. There's a couple things, we do have the sound system in now, which is great.
And the new lights.
And the new lights are great, although they make noise, it's weird. I don't know whether it's that, but that's not.
Overall.
But the
It's never
gym
quiet in
is
there,
really, really
But
bright.
it's great in
nice.
there, right. But we would, so we do have a hopes and dreams. There's not a lot of them, but we were talking about trying to get an access point in the gym, because we do use technology, we use our iPads and things along that line, and we use music all the time.
Yeah, right now our Wi-Fi comes in and out throughout the day
yeah.
because the closest router's just down the
Right
hall.
outside. We have our basketball hoops. We would love to get some kind of climbing wall, for more of a horizontal climbing wall, not obvious, just for.
Bouldering.
Yeah, for bouldering and things like that. That would be, I know there is a grant out there that we can apply for, and that's, it's for a $4,000 grant, which we're gonna look into. And of course, we'd also like to have a nice CVU workout room like they have down there for adults and students. But He said it was similar to Camel's Hump. I had never seen the one at Camel's Hump, so I don't know where we would put it. That would be in the new gym.
Interior shopping mall or exterior?
Interior. I'm one of a lot of gyms in this area, they just, on one of the walls, you
Yeah.
just have
And we
a
have to look into it. I
bouldering
mean,
wall.
we haven't done, haven't done a whole lot of research into it, but, it just is real, I think it would be really a nice addition to the gym. So, other than that, it's pretty, it was an auditorium too.
How's that? Feedback on that, we'll take.
I remember I used to tell the kids that the floor used to open up for our swimming pool. They'd be like, really? Like, yeah, but we can't open it right now, sorry.
I think that's been one of my more eye-opening experiences this new in the AP role is how the gym is such a used space.
Multi-purpose.
As a classroom, as a theater, it's for that school program when the weather's poor, it's a very used, for the recreation in town, it's a very used space, and it's small. So, yeah, definitely could see some needing some improvements. And it would be used.
Okay, any other questions for our wonderful PE teachers?
I'll make another comment. My kids rave about you, so thank
Oh.
you. All three of them.
They don't
come
rave
home.
about health? Thank you very much.
But thank you.
Thank you.
My little one said, "What do you do today?" First thing she always says, "I gym today." It's the first thing she says. So.
A lot of kids, I think that's probably one of the main reasons I went into it, because the kids are so happy to see you. You're always, it's been great. It's been great working with them, so.
Well, thank you.
Okay, so our new athletic director, Kate Meyer.
So I didn't put together a presentation either, but I will pass around. I just kind of printed out, when I took this role on, this is a very new role for me. I have never been in an athletic director role, so it's been very much a learning curve, and Paul very much was helpful during soccer, and Bert, and a lot of people in administration, obviously. So what I started with was I took what John had done previously and kind of revamped like his program, like his handout and his website, and started with communication. That was my main goal, so I'm glad to hear that was a compliment, because it sounds like that was something that really needed to focus on. So communication home to parents, and then communication within the school to the coaches, and to Deb and Karen, and to Allegra and Jeff, and just making sure everyone knew what was going on. So that's kind of was my goal for soccer, and I think it went pretty well. I sent out a parent survey at the end of soccer and got overall really positive feedback. So I feel that I can continue to grow that. But here's that. Let me pass that around. I was trying to find some more participation numbers for you for like past years, but I couldn't really find much from what was kept before, so I kind of started to keep records on that more. So I had like the soccer numbers this year, cross country numbers, back, hoping it was a pretty good program. I think our boys were a little low, but just talking to the rec department, I started talking to kind of Jen McEwen to see how those programs are doing, and it sounds like we have a really strong group that's coming up with the younger grades, so I'm hoping that we'll continue to grow the program for all the different sports. I also put a quick thing for uniforms. So uniforms is a really new world for me. And this year my thought was to, after you guys cleaned out all of the AD stuff, to kind of see and just kind of go with what we had in the closet kind of this year, and just kind of figure out and make notes on like, wow, we probably need soccer shorts, to kind of figure out like what kind of things we're going to need. So I kind of started to put together an idea, talking to a few people that do uniform things, and like some costs and some price. So that's kind of just a real rough of like what it would be to do soccer uniforms for a season, for a year, and that kind of thing. That's not set in stone or anything. That's just me kind of starting to figure out how we're going to do this. And then, so that's kind of what I put together. Any questions so far, or? Okay. Some of the other things that I've kind of been working through, transportation. So it sounds like in the past it's been transportation for buses to and from games. And then last year it sounds like transportation home from games was kind of cut, but then kind of sometimes there. So I decided this year to really just try and do transportation both ways, and then kind of keep track of the numbers. So for soccer, it averaged about 5 to 6 riders back from games. So maybe we'll kind of look at that and see, like, are there other options to work on carpooling, or, you know, just to kind of see what we can do with it. Another thing with transportation is we have a lot of players that use the late bus to get home. And so to really tighten that up this year, instead of having 2 late buses every day, I went through the schedules between soccer and drama and after school things to figure out what days do we really need 2 buses and what days do we just need 1. So I think that was really helpful. I know Deb really appreciated it. And that's the kind of stuff I'm good at, so that was an easy thing to do. The other piece I'm kind of starting to work through and figure out is this, with the one gym, late practices for basketball, and what do students do that when they have late practice. I kind of looked around to see what the other schools in the area do. What we do is we have the coaches supervise until practice, and that's the plan for this year. It sounds like, well, Williston has a lot of gym space, so they don't do late practice. Charlotte does a volunteer parent, like a study hall kind of thing, which it sounds like kind of can sometimes be a challenge to keep staff, but it's something that they've kind of done. And then Shelburne students are expected to go home except for certain cases that they figure out something. So I think that's another area that I'm going to be looking at, figuring out how we're going to continue to do that. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of the stuff that I've been working through. Filling those tiny positions, so like the scorekeeper or the clock person for basketball, I think that's kind of going to be a challenge. I've kind of put it out to a few people, and I've gotten people to pick up games here and there. Haven't talked to Paul yet, so maybe I'll get him to sign up for a few games. But that's kind of been an interesting to try and figure out how to fill those little roles of things. And then I think one of my bigger challenges that I got to really figure out, and I know nothing about, is how to get a baseball field ready for a game.
Don't have to play recess out there.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be to figure that out. I've talked to Tim a little bit about it, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. So got a few ideas, but that's definitely, I think, my biggest challenge coming up. So yeah. Any questions? Or?
I've coached the school for 15 years. I've coached at South Rumkin for 4 years prior to that, and hands down, she doesn't sell herself well enough. She's by far been the best AD I've ever had. Communication, communication with coaches, communication with players, communication with parents, everything. Like, I didn't have to think about anything this year other than my job to coach, and it was a breath of fresh air. I mean, I decided prior to the season it was going to be my last year coaching, and it made me think about it halfway in the season because of the job that she does. She's amazing. So Hinesburg is really lucky to have Kate in that position.
Thanks. I really liked it. It's been a cool way to connect with the students, like in a different way. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
So I guess that's the question I was going to ask then.
Yeah,
Sorry to jump the gun. So
please.
this is just anecdotal.
Yep.
And it sounds like you're a data person, so maybe it's something you can look at in the future. But so I went through a lot of CVU rosters of one of my kids, and I think I know most of the Hinesburg names. And it seems like we were really underrepresented on CVU sports teams. And I'm wondering, A, if you think that's true, and secondly, is there, you don't have to tell us, but think about why might that be the case. And secondly, is that something that maybe the three of you could just noodle on and say, if that is inaccurate, which I think it is could that be a goal to say, and you know, I'm all about people just participating. You know, for me, it's not about if you go to the varsity or JV or this or that. I just think we should have, I think, kids participating in after-school athletics. I'm not telling you guys are the professionals. You know, it's just teamwork, getting around with people, keeps them busy. All those things are important. So I don't know what I'm asking or what I'm saying, but do you recognize that, and is it something you think we can kind of wrap our heads around and say, yeah, this is something that we should should be a goal that we have to get more kids from Hinesburg to participate at the CBU level.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always great to have, you know, that lifetime of fitness, like that goal of having, you know, inspiring people to continue to be healthy and find the thing that's passion for them. That's something I haven't looked at, like I haven't, and especially because I wasn't in the role, like I never really thought like how that transfers over. But I definitely think it's a great way to kind of see like how is your program doing and how are you compared to the other schools. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I could see myself looking at and wondering,
Okay.
especially as I start to get to know the players and the kids and see them, like, I think of my cousin Emma who's trying out for basketball right now. So, you know, yeah, I think it's important.
I think we're also in a whole other day and age with sports in general. You know, soccer, basketball, Soccer Central, CBU. Kids see, if you don't play club soccer,
Right.
it's very, very difficult to make that team, regardless if you're boys or girls. And because of that, you have a drop-off, unfortunately, in kids when they get to CBU. They're like, I'm not going to make the team. I don't have a chance. Whereas when they're talking about lifetime sports and stuff, that's where the cross-country running and maybe the Nordic skiing comes
Right.
in and things like that. And I think that's where the push should be for a lot of these kids, is to think about, okay, you got a chance to participate in school soccer here in Hinesburg. And unfortunately, if you look at the numbers coming in from Hinesburg and Williston and everybody else, population size, that, you know, you're not going to have as many Hinesburg kids making those teams in particular. But on the flip side of it, look at the kids that are participating in what they're doing. Tyler Marshall, state champion for cross-country running from Hinesburg. You know, we have kids that are representing the state championship teams in soccer that, you know, that were from Hinesburg, and both girls and boys. So we have kids that participate. The other thing too that has been a huge effect on school soccer in particular is the football program. You have Buccaneers, you have a lot of top athlete kids that in the past would have played soccer and now they're playing football. And you know, that's okay, because you have more kids that are able to play a sport. You know, starting quarterback from Hinesburg this past year. So we have representation for sure. I think it's a different world now.
And we also, I believe CBU still has outdoor clubs as well, like the ultimate frisbee
Yep.
and all, and those would be team rosters, but they definitely come in the realm of lifetime help in sports.
I just want to make it clear, I wasn't saying that we don't have enough kids playing varsity soccer and varsity basketball. My impression was, even on those rosters where cross-country and Nordic skiing and, you know, those open sport rosters,
Yeah.
it looked like we were underrepresented too. That was just my thinking. I think that can only speak to the culture of you folks. So I would just like to see that number, the culture be, yeah, you should participate, should be a good thing, yeah, you can do this, you know, and maybe the kids, even point kids in that direction versus, you know, you can recognize who's gonna be able to maybe be a varsity type athlete by the time they're in 8th grade.
Yeah, and I would say that, again, like what they're talking about, I have a child that's in 4th grade that he's by no means into team sports of any kind, much to my disappointment at this point. But he's talked more about the activities that he's doing in PE right now than he's ever talked about before. And he's at home and all the kids in their neighborhood, and he's trying to organize some of these same things that are going on. I'm like, all right, this is great. So yeah, I mean, I think there is a change in culture going on because of the teaming that's going on here.
Or for me, for one of, I think my things is I'm hearing, especially with this, like getting ready for basketball tryouts, is, you know, being able to have 7th and 8th graders that are like, I've never played, but I'm going to try out because I know I'll be accepted and I can be a part of this team. And that's really what I want to see. Like, I want to see people, you know, we had a student that moved to this school this year and really didn't know how to fit in. We got her on cross country, and it just, for her family was just so thankful that she was joined right in as part of the Hinesburg community. And that's the kind of thing I want to see. So it's my goal, so to increase that way.
And if we offered, like, if we played, I mean, I think like Paul had said, the clubs and things like that, I think also in the older grades, when we play games of soccer and basketball. Team sports like that, or even if we played, some kids don't shine. You know, some kids do shine, but they shine at MMU and they shine at Far Post and they shine in their arena. And to be able to watch some kids that have always just held back in PE and not done stuff before, to be able to do can jam and do it well, or play badminton and be the badminton champion of all of these kids who you would never expect this child to have done it, and to see the joy in his face. You know, I don't know. I think that the kids that are going to be in the varsity are going to be after it anyway, and they're going to be going to the clubs. And I think that we need to teach the kids that are not the athletes. Really look at the kids that need the PE, really need the activity, and learn that joy is moving, and it's fun, and not always like somebody jamming into you or knocking you down or leaving you in the dust, which a lot of these kids are. So, I mean,
another thing. This is not phys ed related, but I think other towns offer just the sport I'm thinking of is field hockey. It's an access issue. Sometimes we don't have that as a sport in our extracurricular. So I think you're always going to see a CVU roster that's lacking in those categories that just aren't offered in our town.
Yep. Any other questions, or? Great, well, thank you so much for coming out.
Okay, thank you for having us. And we're not going to stay for the rest. We're sorry. We must teach outdoors all day tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, Paul.
You pass.
All right.
Chris, a little more growth
Yep.
for tomorrow, okay? Yeah.
Thank you. Take care. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Good night.
He's awesome.
You ready? Okay.
Okay, so,
Yep, 5.0.
yeah, so there's one piece of the principal's report that I didn't put in, and I think you all know Katie O'Brien in the last principal's report. She became she was honored at UVM for this UVM Outstanding Teacher of the Year. It was a great presentation, it was a great ceremony, and we all love Katie and all the wonderful work she's done at her school. So Jess Wilson put together something about Katie that we thought you would
awesome.
like to see.
Walking in the building and seeing all the beautiful artwork that Katie has put up, it's such a warm and welcoming place. Katie is one of the most amazing art teachers I've ever worked with. The installations she's put in around this school are the neatest things I think I've ever seen, and I've learned so much from her. She's just truly inspiring, and I was thrilled that she was getting this award.
Walking through our hallways and seeing the amazing artwork that Katie has inspired kids to create. Katie is the kind of person that I wish I had had when I was in elementary school.
sharing.
Thank you.
Is that on the website?
It went around the staff. I don't know if it is, that's a good question.
It should be.
It should be, shouldn't it?
Mhm.
I'm sure Katie would never put it up herself, so.
No.
You'll have to be listening then.
Jessica could.
Jessica could. Yeah, Katie might want to try and take it down, but I'll,
It's cheerful.
it's, right, it's just
She is
wonderful.
amazing.
Isn't she? Yeah, I know. It was a wonderful ceremony. You did a great job, and it was a great award. So I think you have a copy of the principal's report with everything else. The UA curriculum night and pie harvest dinner. I don't know. I know some of you were there, and the wonderful entertainment that we had too. It was just a great and magical evening. Again, there were more people there than last year, and I don't know if it keeps growing, or I don't know where we're going to keep fitting everybody, but that's such a great problem to have. And the food was just phenomenal. I know, right? That butternut squash lasagna that the junior chefs made and the kale salad. I don't eat beets. I ate those beets, and I just, oh my God, I took some home with me. They were so good. I know.
The junior line chefs were phenomenal.
They were great. Yeah, they were. And they had a gluten-free option. It was nice to see the high school kids come and they weren't Hinesburg kids per se, they were just high school kids. And some were, right, but they weren't chosen because they're Hinesburg. But, and they were very relaxed about it. I'm like running around trying to get everything done. I was like, why can't I get you guys? But we're okay. Like, we've got this, don't worry. All right. So, but it was a great evening, and maybe we need to look at the menu again. I did not know that. But,
Kid options maybe.
yeah, right, that might. Hanukkah's coming, I'm sure you all know that, it's great. We did receive $2,500 from the Vermont Arts Council, thanks to Lisa Stanton and we met one afternoon and wrote this grant up, and we got it, so we're very excited about that. It's a great program from the Flynn that comes to schools. I don't know, right, is there anything else that you have questions about? I decided to start putting in the ELP, which is our early learning partnership. So those are the, you know what that is. So we're keeping track of 63 kids for that right now. Also, as part of the principals, yep.
Is that in that is
Outside of the 522.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Because it's not, I don't remember how much of the percentage you get for ADM with that.
It's like 0.3 or something.
Yeah. But our school keeps track of that. You'll also see, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I have some more copies. Our SBAC assessments there. This is just a brief overview so you can see how Hinesburg is compared to Vermont, compared to CSSU by grade level. I think they might have it on there. Looks like they have it on their laptop. Okay. If you need a hard copy of it, it's right there. So remember, this is the first year of SBAC, so we're looking at it, wondering, we are digging down some, but it's also what was related to technology. It's a new kind of testing for us. We're not quite sure all of that. I think we did really well. As at SU, we did really well, and Hinesburg certainly did well too. And this other sheet that was attached to it, that just gives you the numbers of kids. If you look at that, you really just need to look at one line of that. So you can see that in third grade, we tested 52 kids.
So you want to highlight for us? Wow,
Well, sure. So, I mean, I think that we're considerably higher than the state average in most everything. I think we are holding our own. Our sixth grade certainly is doing well, and ELA probably above the CSSU average. If you look down at math, our fourth grade did, and our fifth grade did really well in our seventh grade. But there's so many things that could be adding into that. We don't know enough yet to know what exactly is adding into that. Either, wow, that's great, or I'm wondering why we didn't do that well in that.
The question, I looked through this, and I looked through, the CSSU principal's report had the same chart for the other two, all the other schools except Williston was not included.
I don't know about that. This
They-
came
they-
from central office.
They were, and it looked like, I guess, like looking at, our math scores in general, we were at or above the CSSU average.
Yeah.
Literacy, we're lagging behind. Do you look at that as a concern? Is it so new that you can't really look at it and drill down and say it's a concern? Is it a conversation you have with the staff? Will you follow it next year? I mean, I just want to get a gut feeling how you're going to use this data and what conversations generally
Right.
you'll be having with staff around. I mean, I'm concerned that in fourth grade, 63% in ELA versus the CSSU average of 70.
Right. So
Seventh grade
yeah.
was 64 versus 74.
So remember, this is one measure
Right.
on one day.
Right.
Throughout the course of the whole year. And even the Secretary of Education is reminding us all that we need to look at it this way. This is the first year of the assessment. So I think stamina is a piece. I think we're looking at, did we do students justice by having, with the number of days we spread the test over? Should we shorten that? As some schools did it in a shorter amount of days for some kids and longer. I think there's a lot of things we need to look at that way. We also need to really look at the close reading. I think that's, especially of texts that kids might not be interested in, and the perseverance to be able to keep going with that reading and remembering and going and being able to answer the questions.
Did we conduct the tests in the same method as the other schools in the SU?
Not necessarily.
Not in terms of days and duration, that sort of thing?
No, we have a huge window.
So that becomes a challenge to try and compare.
It does, but it doesn't mean we can't learn from and I know just talking with other schools, they did it this way. And even within our own schools, sixth grade did it different than fourth grade. Teachers, it was the first year we were trying to figure out how does this all work out? And some of it is also just management. We can't have everybody in the whole school doing it at the same time. So we had some kids who were taking it in March, and some classes, when did you do yours, in May?
Late, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a really big window. So we don't know, we can't say that all fourth graders in the SU even took it at the same week.
Or in the same method.
Nope. You do not have
Yeah,
that.
and there's a big difference. I mean, if you have kids taking it in March versus May, the amount of new knowledge that they could gain in that period of time could be very different.
And we asked that question several times, and I'm not a mathematician, but we were told by the state that they have an algorithm that takes that into account. But what it doesn't take into account is someone's developmental, kids at this age, especially, these young kids, they, in March, might be able to sustain for this amount of time, but by May can sustain that much longer, just because developmentally they've made changes. So.
I guess my comment would be is, the question I get as a school board member from people in the community is all the time, is Hinesburg School teaching kids as well as Williston, Shelburne, and
Yes.
Showa? And at the end of the day, no matter what we say about timeframes, everything, people are going to take data like this and look at it and say. So completely understanding what you're saying, quote, for lack of a better term, believing what you're saying. But if next year we see that we're performing below CSSU for that grade level, and the next year, then we're going to start having some conversations
Absolutely.
with, about why are we, because we're pretty much a homogeneous population at this point. So, but, just be prepared. People, I don't know how many people are interested, but if people look across the mall, those are the questions you'll get, and the teachers will get,
And probably should get if we keep.
Right. But
if
I accept the
some of these
premise that it's
trends
the first year and you can't tell, and, I know that you folks were really looking at, if I remember correctly, you were thinking you're gonna have 40% proficiency based upon what the Department of Education told you guys, so good job.
Right. And I can tell you, we had a literacy consultant that's been working with the SU, who is now going to be working in literacy kindergarten through fourth grade. And so for her first day with us, I thought it was really important that she went to every kindergarten through fourth grade classroom and like did a data walk or a walkthrough, whatever you want to call it, for about 15 to 20 minutes in each room. And then she reported out at the faculty meeting and she was blown away. She's just, with the literacy instruction that was happening, the methodology that teachers were using, the high caliber, and the interaction with students. And it was interesting because when she was walking through the school, she said the same thing. As soon as she walked in the building, she said, oh my, this school is you just walk in and you see the artwork and you see the welcoming environment. And and there's always work you can do. And she's going to be with us throughout the spring, doing some embedded professional development with teachers in kindergarten through 4th grade on literacy.
So jumping in the middle, we have a collective responsibility to get the kids ready for life after HCS. 8th grade last year, we were number 1 in science.
Right.
Top 5 in reading, top 10 in writing. And math was an area that we saw was a need, and the board made a decision to put more support in for the 7th and 8th grade. So I think we can hang our hat on a pretty strong pedestal that says that kids are getting an outstanding education at Hinesburg Community School. And you're going to have classes in data that will have its ups and downs, but there's always more to the story than the numbers that are in front. Could be so many different possibilities, from the number of low SES kids to but those aren't excuses.
Right.
That's kind of where we're at. But we know that we can never be okay with mediocrity. Always strive for greatness, and also know at the end of the day we're able to sleep at night knowing that the teachers are doing an outstanding job. So I think that's what it comes down to, is kind of always pushing to that next level on our end, but also knowing that the level that we're at is pretty outstanding.
Yep. The math scores, is there something that happens across the board in 6th grade that makes kids just struggle on those?
That's a great question, actually. I brought up to
We have our
Nancy
math
Pollock. Well, Nancy Pollock, at our math coordinator, I brought up right when the scores came out, because across the board statewide, that test people did not do well on. And so I was like, what kind of information can we get from the test to see what we're not hitting that the test is doing? I have not heard back yet. But, we started a new math program last year with 6th grade CMP too, that we spent a lot of money on. So we want to make sure that it's actually in line with what they're testing. So that's one of those things I think that we're going to find out with first year tests. Do we need to change around the curriculum in a way that it's going to meet what the test is asking for, in a sense, or what they want 6th graders to know? So we're still waiting on answers from that, unfortunately.
It's just across the board.
And it's across the statewide, yeah. So something's going on, and it could be the test itself.
I mean, that's what I mean, is that there's so many different reasons for those ups and downs. Without having the full scope of everything, it's hard to, but at the same point in time, it's worth looking at.
Yeah.
And those are built upon new standards, and not everybody, the kids at the lower end are being taught according to those new standards, but those in the middle level, they're in a catch-22 kind of spot.
But we look at everything. Technology, iPads versus Chromebooks, and just any little thing that could possibly get in the way. And here's a guy who's like, just give me the data from the test so that I can figure out what's going well and what do I need to change, what do I have to do different. But that's how all of our teachers are. So I'm psyched that he's here, because that's, as soon as people see, that affects him more than it affects anybody else, like seeing those scores. And he's one of the best. So you can't always believe the score, but you gotta put some weight on the score. So I get it.
And I guess what concerns me more than anything are when we see the high percentages at that level 1. And, I know you guys are working to help those kids move up, and seeing that progression is really what you'd want to see, but it'll be interesting to see how the results are next year.
Are we gonna have,
A presentation at a board meeting that's dedicated specifically to this, the way we used to have kneecap.
Dedicated to SBAC?
Yeah.
I can definitely do that for you.
So, well, I'm not trying to foreclose discussion here, I'm just trying to say, look, we're gonna have a whole meeting to talk about this
It's in the
later.
work plan.
Am I correct that we're
If
gonna
it's
talk
in the
about?
work plan,
Yeah.
I was trying to figure it out because, for all the reasons why we just mentioned, federal accountability on this SBAC test wasn't even, this test wasn't given any credence. It was like kind of the practice test. So we can present out with what we had. I mean, we're still well above the state average. I mean, we can toot our own, but as Paul said, we haven't gotten, with kneecaps, we got the item analysis. So here's what your kids got wrong, here's why they got it wrong. That's really the helpful stuff, but I would still be happy to present, here's kind of how we did comparatively, and here's, but we're using that information as we move toward the budget season, obviously, is what is this data telling us? But I know that there's a CSSU work plan, SBAC. Is that also at the local level?
Yeah, because we
Okay.
usually do the common topic and then we bring it to the local.
Okay.
I think usually, but I'm not sure it's happening this year. When I look
I
at
was just
the-
looking for the work plan.
I have
If I
it.
find it, you have it with you?
Mhm.
I'm thinking because of that, the validity piece, I don't know if, I
I
don't know
don't
if
think there
it's-
is that.
But
That-
we will.
But usually it's an overall assessment presentation.
But I almost think that happened in September or October at the CSSU level.
If I find it.
You okay? Because it's given in the spring now instead of the fall, so. Anyways,
Oh, right, the lag time, yeah.
All right, thank you. 5.2 CSSU debrief. I was very tardy to the meeting, so I can't report.
You're not that late.
Colleen already reported about the Act 46 study committee, so how about if the third SU board member gives us a little debrief?
Colleen, help me on this. We did it, Megan,
Budget and special ed,
yeah, there was a, Megan Roy did a,
Fox budget, every year.
I was a little late for that, so you can go with that. How about that? So Megan did a nice, great presentation on special ed, the budget, where we are at now. We're running a little bit of a deficit, and they're looking at a 7.4, I think, % increase from baseline. But then Bob and Megan went back and sharpened their pencils and tweaked some things, and they're looking at about a 3.2. Is that the right number?
They cut it.
3.4%
Just about half.
increase to really reel it in. It sounds like they did a lot of hard work to get that, because that, of course, affects the local budgets and everything else. So that was a excellent presentation by Megan. She explained, again, how people become categorized within special ed. It sounds like that they have.
The service plan is still in revision stage.
Correct.
And they're working on the
Thank
third
you.
draft right now.
But I
And-
think it's imperative that we understand, and I would ask our administrators their view on this, that the reduction of the 1.0 FTE that Megan proposed was, as I understand it, of our EEE program.
so there wasn't, nothing that was presented said that there was a 1.0 reduction. What they said is that there would be an add of 1.5 professionals and a reduction of 10.5 paras from Megan's. But you heard Megan say that there was a reduction in EEE because of the class sizes.
Between
So
Charlotte and Hinesburg.
that is,
yes.
part of that is us.
Right.
I heard a combination of
Right.
There were things on 2 different slides.
Well, there's a staff reduction, what's ECSE?
Early childhood.
Education.
Special ed.
Yeah.
Staff reduction, model
So-
change, 1.0
Right,
professional,
so-
1.7 paras.
So the model change is that we would be combining with Charlotte,
That's where I'm going.
and none of that has been figured out as to what that would look like,
Okay.
okay?
Is that something we can do? I understand that special ed now is,
Mhm.
the budget is
Mhm.
from the SU, but the kids are still in our
Yep.
building, you know, and we're two different districts right now. Are we
But the
even
budget is
allowed
for, but
to
the,
do
for, in
that?
special ed, yes.
Okay.
Students need to be offered the opportunity for a preschool. So even in the neighboring towns, if you're part of the ELP, the Early Learning Partnership.
But,
and
right.
So there's the kid piece, the budget piece is an easy one, we can definitely do it.
Yeah.
The budget piece, but if our kids have to go to Charlotte or vice versa,
Right.
we're still covered under the provisions of the law.
Okay.
So we had a meeting to discuss the possibility of that. We did not have a meeting as to say what it would exactly look
Right.
like.
Okay.
But we knew when you look at the number of kids that require those IEP services from Charlotte and the number from Hinesburg that require that early childhood, those services, we didn't have enough to sustain 2 full-time programs.
Okay. That is what I heard
Yep.
during that meeting. Okay.
Mhm.
Not decided yet.
Where it
On
would
the
go or
drawing.
what it would look like,
Okay.
exactly. And that would be weird, but we decided not to let that hang us up into making the decision. So we made the decision knowing that we can work it, because the numbers worked out, and then we'll work the rest out as we continue to have conversations.
Anything else from SU?
Budget, you talking about, talk about Colleen, do that for me?
Well, it's at, you know, just the baseline budget, the CSSU budget is at a 6.8% increase. And given that, you know, it's about 22 million out of a combined $70 million plus budget, it's significant. And so, and special ed is a big part of that. So as that works down with the revisions to the service plans, that will get adjusted. But I think every board in our SU is recognizing with that 2% cap that's imposed by the state, before we would hit some penalties that are rather significant. You know, we've got a lot of work to do, Chris, both in the SU and here. Yeah. Is that what you want me to do?
Sure.
Okay.
Since I came into that.
All right. Any questions? Please.
I have one question.
Go ahead, Tina.
I know with this special ed budget, they did say, you know, we're cutting this back, but it comes with an increased risk factor.
Yeah.
So if students come in and need services that are going to cost more, say they come into Hinesburg, does that then get billed to Hinesburg, or is that spread amongst?
Spread. So the, you know, the
Proportionally?
risk factor piece, Bob did use that term and it's appropriate, and I want to hear what administrators have to say about this as well. But one of the things that's different this year for us as compared to prior years, the risk quite often would have been imposed on a local district. And now with the risk being spread among all of the different communities, there may be risk built into the budget, but it's spread across everybody.
Is that spread across the general population or the population of students having services?
Our
what's
our
the
budget
numbers
is by
based on?
ADM. It has
Okay.
nothing to do with actual use. It's ADM of the total population. Right.
But there's a general ed budget and a special ed budget, so that if you're that cost of that student coming in would not touch the general ed budget. It would get dispersed in the revenue, the reimbursement coming back. It's all at CSSU now. If I'm understanding the question.
So in general terms, the risk historically when special ed was at all the locals was that peaks and valleys were very significant. Now there are still peaks and valleys, but they're a lot more tempered because they're spread out over that many more total students.
Because at a time when we might be receiving a student that might have to be in and out of placement with a high tuition, another school might be losing a child, and those two would offset where, and that's the peak that Keith is talking about.
Right. And so I think that was part of prefacing our budget discussion coming up in December would be, what's the comfort level with that risk? And Bill, you always make a comment, you want to repeat that, about building into the budget.
You know, Bob and Megan mentioned there's a risk involved with really not anticipating kids coming back into the system or out. And my comment is I appreciate the fact that they're trying to be frugal and manage the budget, but to me it's easier to have the bad news up front, put the money in the budget, than try to chase the money down later once the kid comes in and do it on the deficit side. So, and they said they have it managed well, so I trust that. But it's one thing the board has is the budget, and it's one thing we struggle with is what kind of risk do you want to take, you know?
All right, thank you. Speaking of money, 5.3, first quarter FMR. It's on page 23. The summary is on page 24, I think. You guys want to speak to that?
I would take questions.
This is first quarter of the 15-16 fiscal year.
Yep.
So this estimated roughly 13,000 over budget is based on a couple of months in.
4 months.
There's still a lot.
Or 3 months,
go.
yeah. Yeah, and even, and I wouldn't be worried about that 13, but even, if you remembered, we had a conversation last year about, if our budget was doing well at the end of last year, that we might be able to buy some supplies to offset costs. And so when our bookkeeper and I kind of went through this with a fine-tooth comb, we realized that she encumbered those funds for about 15,000. So that, I mean, there's your 15 right there. But again, it's way early, and we're not. I'm not worried that we won't be able to make up that deficit, even knowing already that it's already covered. And then the operations and maintenance is something that we talked about. I gave you a heads up at the last board meeting about just, once again, going through and making sure that we had everything that we needed in that line item. So, but it's not a surprise to me that we're over.
Questions?
No. Is facilities on our agenda? I see construction, no projects at this time. Okay, there's a facilities update, but I'll wait.
516 is facilities committee. We can talk about it in there. How about
Yeah,
that?
sure.
All right. We have a 5.4 VSBA debrief. Do I recall that you attended a VSBA meeting? Do you want to talk about that?
Seems so long ago. Okay, annual VSBA meeting, Vermont School Board Association and Vermont Superintendent Association was held in October. And as you can imagine, the focus of conversation was Act 46. And a lot of the discussion was related to, well, what does the law mean? What are communities doing about it, and so forth. So the VSBA and the VSA have links on their website if you want to find copies of PowerPoint information and so forth. But really, the total focus was on Act 46. It's a great meeting every year. It's, really helpful to have school board members and superintendents in the same room and meeting people from all over the state. So it's very productive. That's all.
Thank you. 5.5 parent council debrief. I know that there's a PI meeting on Thursday night, right after our budget forum. Anyone else have anything to contribute on that?
Bill wants to begin looking at the grants. that the teachers
Yep.
have proposed.
Yep.
So it's the grant meeting, which is a big one, and an exciting time for teachers and PI, I think, to take a look at what's being asked.
I did a lot of work to help with the harvest.
Yep.
The UA night and the harvest dinner, and they really helped support the UA teachers and pulled together the harvest dinner. It was a fundraiser for them, but it was more, let's make this a great community event, and I think they were very successful with that.
That was
Do
awesome.
you know how much they raised from the last fundraiser, the catalog for?
I don't know about the
Yeah.
catalog.
I don't either.
I think
And
that they were tallying it up the last time that they met, so.
And I think they're still planning to do another family dance in the
Yeah.
spring.
April 1st.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No, it's really.
What day of the week is that?
What are you planning?
Must be a Friday.
I'm thinking it's a Friday, but.
It is a Friday.
It is, all right.
It was pretty fun last year.
Was it a family dance?
Yeah,
It was great.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah. I don't think we were gonna go with the beach balls, though. That made me a little nervous.
Yeah, I didn't know about that until it happened, and I was like, that's not great.
Yeah, I let that go on for a little bit, and then I went and collected them all and put them in the closet. The kid's like, what happened to the beach balls? I don't know.
No, I don't know.
I know. They're not here.
All right, thank you. 5-6, facilities. There you go, Jeff.
So there's the facilities committee hasn't met, but some bad news. Our hot water tank went. So it wasn't as bad as what's that?
Did it flood?
No. No. Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's a good
the
way
good
of putting it. So just unexpected costs, about 4,000.
It was air conditioning.
That was a good one, Bill.
Is that your 13,000 or is that not reflected yet?
Not reflected. It's just unanticipated, but we'll cut back on pencils. So lots of them.
Did you end up buying that piece of kitchen equipment we talked about last time?
Nope. So, but we will have to soon. It's hanging on literally by a piece of welded metal that, Tim is, you guys are in good hands. I mean, he really gets the last bit out of everything that we have. So, but that is going to be coming. We're hoping to get through this year.
What is this piece of equipment?
It's the major piece of equipment that cooks the food.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
it's the steamer, it's some sort of oven. It's this huge contraption that not in any normal kitchen.
All right, thank you for that news.
You're welcome.
5.7, baseline budget.
Baseline budget, I just happened to pass out.
I passed out too. Do you have enough? Yeah. That was purposeful.
So does this, one of the things that's screaming out at me is the CSSU. Oh, wait a minute, no, that's not the special ed, that's just the services. Special ed.
It does say consolidated special.
Yeah, I was looking at the other side, but on that one, Tina, that you're looking at, I'm now looking at that. Yeah, I wonder if that's after the first pass or the second pass that Megan talked about.
This is still the,
And we don't know that.
Okay.
I have a question about that, and I have a question about some other costs, but,
Well-
you will get that on the
So-
30th.
So I guess, this is the work of the board. This is what we do. We start drilling into this. So I guess my question is, how much drilling and discussion do you want us to do right now? We're obviously gonna have plenty of time to talk about this,
I think the plan was just to give the board
just to
the
give it to us.
the information, you have
Okay.
time to look at it before the meeting on the 30th.
Perfect.
Can I ask a question I should probably know the answer to?
Only if you know the
I
answer.
don't know the answer, but I should know. So, the legislature said, or based upon that, 2.1% is our, how's that 2.1 dovetail with the 4.95 is my question. We have to reduce that number to get it down to the 2.1, correct?
No. So do you want this one, Colleen?
Go for it.
Okay, so that's kind of what we would like from the board, is the 2.1% is that number that we always used to look at. How much are we spending per equalized pupil? Remember that it's 14.5, I think now. So that number is the number that can't go up by more than 2.1%. So that number gets factored in the revenue, gets factored in this. So those are two totally different.
That's what I thought.
So from our end, as we begin to build the budget, we would, you always say we think that we can go to the community with blank percentage, and you usually use this. But I'm almost wondering if we're getting back to that moment of time of looking at that number and really saying, like, if you give us the directive for Allegra and I think that I would know the answer is stay within that 2.1%. I don't know what that would mean in terms of how much increase or decrease this budget would be. Does that make sense? Because there's so many other factors that go into that.
And we're getting that on Monday, the 30th.
Getting what?
I'm envisioning a spreadsheet that has like our equalized pupils and the
This one?
What is that?
did you go through that with Bob and
Yeah.
your team?
Yeah, and to Jeff's point, the problem is, I guess the 2.1% is set, isn't that right?
Mhm.
2.11, that's set. But
Well, it's set, but the caveat is the legislature is gonna be revisiting it in January, which is too late for any.
Well, we can't count
No,
on
right. So I just wanna say that it's set for now.
But I also think they're meeting tomorrow or Thursday. Just about. Act 46, I think.
My recollection is that when we've had that discussion over at the school and we go around the room, sort of taking a straw poll of board members, what number are you comfortable with an increase being? It's an increase to the baseline that we've talked about, not an increase to the per pupil cost. Because I think last year, the baseline went up 2-point-something%, but because we had more pupils, the equalized pupil went down.
So from an administrative viewpoint, I think that the number that, Paul Lamberson, hello. I think the number that's more important, because as our population increases, and that number of 14.5, our budget might be at 5%, but that number might not move. But what that's meaning is that we're doing more with less, so to speak. We have more kids, we have more factors that are making that.
You're taking advantage of economies of scale.
But we're keeping the staffing and we're keeping everything else the same. So I think that either can be sold to the community, not sold to the community, but I think either, there's positives and negatives to looking at either number.
Well, the cap is based on your per pupil,
Correct.
so it's a different number than the budget.
Yeah.
But I think regardless,
I don't
we're
know.
gonna try to stay under that 2.1%.
think you have to.
For the-
You have to.
So we'll
Yeah.
need to, so we'll
That's-
need to know what that target
Yeah.
dollar amount to
Well,
pull.
I was gonna
out
say,
is.
the first, in my opinion, the first directive is there's no way we can exceed that 2.1%.
Correct. I'm
And
with
the
you.
second directive is, then we can talk about at the budget meeting, is this number here, what we all think that number should be.
Yeah.
But the prime directive is, for Star Trek fans, is the 2.1%, in my opinion.
Stacy, can you talk a little bit about that sheet that you have in front of you? I'm not.
Yeah, it was so long ago that I went to that I'm trying to rack my brain right now, but what it's showing is, it's based, 2.1% is based on last year's equalized pupil.
Right.
Mhm.
And then in here is added fiscal year 2016 phantoms. I'm not sure what that means, but it gets you to basically, to the extent that you have a lower equalized pupil, you're allowed bigger growth in your equalized pupil. So the max anybody's gonna get is 5.5%. And the school that would get that 5.5% is the school that had the lowest equalized pupil last year. Because in theory, they have more room to need to grow up or to spend more. I don't know if that makes sense.
The phantom pupils is related to your, the number, your enrollment, so if you lose too many students, you don't want to be, the state doesn't want to penalize a school too much.
Right.
Because you could have 9 different grade levels or 10 different grade levels in the building, lose 100 kids, but it has a different impact per grade level.
I think we're gonna need both pieces before us.
Yes.
Because we can't make the decision in a vacuum. And I wouldn't be as,
I don't think.
I wouldn't be as black and white, we can't go above the 2.1% if the legislature moves quickly, which would be unlikely in January. I mean, I would wanna look at the damage, if the 2.1% really resulted in damage to the education of our kids, I guess I wouldn't wanna just roll over and say, well, we can't go with that. I would wanna understand the impact. But right now, we can't, there's so many moving parts, we are gonna, and it won't be accurate in December, right? Because we'll still be guessing at some of the inputs.
Yeah, so I think I found the sheet that you're looking at, and the max, based on this 2.11% is, we're at 14,489, and the max would be 14,782.
Right.
And then, the easy answer that, Bob might smirk at is, how much would our budget have to increase before we would get to that level? But then again, that number includes the revenue and so many other factors
Right.
that, I think it would be great to have both pieces of information in front of us, but I don't quite understand.
But it's gotta be a projection.
I don't think we're gonna have that number in front of us
That's
for
what
some
I'm-
period of time, because in the Colt report, it says that in order to figure out exactly what that number is, we need to know what the equalized pupil count is that won't be coming out until December, sometime in December.
Bob has projected that out.
He's projected it, yeah.
Right, yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
He's projected it, and that's what that 2.11 is. It's a projection based on what we think the equalized pupil number is gonna be. Maybe I'm being
Can we
naive, but I don't really think
Can
this.
we
I think we're guessing a lot, you
Yeah.
gotta wait till we have.
I don't think this
information.
is gonna be a problem for us, honestly.
Not the way it's gonna be for some other communities
Exactly,
here. There's some
exactly.
other that are very difficult situations.
And that's what the Holt report concludes.
Yeah.
That it's not gonna be a problem for us, but.
So maybe we hold our questions until Monday?
Kind of. The kind of piece for me is that, that preliminary decision packets have to be to you by Monday.
I guess you need to start thinking, huh?
No, I'm happy to think. I
didn't mean
wonder,
to be snarky.
no, it's, but then to Keith's point, just December 14th is when decision packets are decided.
Right.
So I mean that, we could be shooting in the dark here a little bit. Which I'm okay to do, but I just want you to be aware that that's,
Now, we've had some, in prior years, our deciding was not happening until January. We
I'm
were
just
trying
l-
to make early decisions, but
I'm just looking at the calendar, so.
we do have a lot of moving parts.
I have a question. I guess I feel like we're being asked to provide you a percentage increase of target of what the spending should go. You know what you're asking? Like what-
No, sometimes what's helpful is that the board is said in the times that we're in, we don't feel comfortable going to the community,
It's a political question.
yeah, with more than a blank percentage. And the times, sometimes it was predetermined for us, but it just helps us know how much do we need to cut, or is this a time that we might be able to look to see what the school needs? So it just helps us frame it, but you don't have to give us any directive. It's just helpful for us.
Yeah, no, I get it. From the 4.95% that's shown here for a baseline increase.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest factor is personnel, right? So really, that's where the money
Mhm,
is. So
yeah.
it's whether you're gonna recommend a reduction in staff or increase, I mean, it's qualitative, it's not just dollars.
I guess
So-
that was where I was going is if we don't know what the needs are and we're not seeing headcount, projected headcount by class and all that kind of stuff. I mean, if you need a body and it puts us at a bad percentage, I think if it's needed, it's needed. That's how I feel. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but if it's not needed and we can make cuts, I think that's always a good idea.
I guess where I'm coming
Somewhere.
from is I feel like we have sliced and diced every other budget line item. Then I gotta imagine there's not a lot more slicing and dicing to do there. So really, it's what is our staffing, and this is, on the baseline, you're showing, it means the money's in the, it's gonna be in the staffing.
I agree with Kathy. What I would say is, what I've appreciated as a board member about the administration since I've been on the board is you've been very fiscally responsible, and you've given us a straight dope on, we can't do this, or we can. And you got creative a few years ago with some staffing changes that you said improved outcomes, and I think it ended up saving us a few bucks. And so I guess my question, I always want to have you answer, you have to answer it now, is we can operate the school at the level we're at now, or at a level you want to be, at what number? Being financially as stingy as you feel comfortable. I think that's how you've operated, and I appreciate that. I mean, I tell people in the community I talk to, there's nothing extra in that budget. You know, we're not going off on junkets and doing these sorts of things, you know, so, you know, we look at guidance for you on that, and if, of course, we like it when you come to us and say, oh, we think we can swim by on a 3% from baseline this year. But if you can't, give us a straight scoop, and we'll all put our heads together. And
I don't think you'll ever hear educators advocate for reducing a budget.
Understood, but no, but I wouldn't say that. I think the administration, since I've been on the board, has not advocated for reducing the budget, but reducing, but they have done it because they recognize the challenges in the community and what the people are feeling. And, you know, I don't want to go to the community with a 5% increase. I don't. But if you tell us that's what we have to do, to Kathy's point, well, I will advocate for that on your behalf.
I think, yeah, we appreciate that, but the other caveat that because the budget finished in such good standing last year, you will be able to have a conversation around allocating more of the fund balance as well, so. I want to remind.
That's revenue, that's not budget. That's easy.
It depends on what number you're looking at, so it's gonna help us with the 2.11
If I make,
and the tax implications.
if I may make another comment, based upon what
Yeah.
Kate said today, we had a really general 1,000-foot view conversation about the field. Remember that, Colleen? You know,
Yeah, that came up last year.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
you know, so
Yeah.
I know that's a nice to have, but, you know, it would be nice if we could do something to make that more usable space, but if we can't, we can't, but there are things that we want to do as well, so I guess I'm kind of talking out both sides of my mouth here, but.
Biggest sandbox in Chittenden County.
It's been neglected for a long time.
There's always a positive spin, right? Yes.
Can someone remind me what the increase was last year in the budget, the spending increase?
I don't have my budget with me. It's 2 point something.
2.62.
Yeah.
With a huge reduction in equalized people cost. It went from 15.2 to 14.5.
Right.
This is the allowable growth for each
This has
district.
gotta be,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a 4.9% increase in salaries, I don't know how you get to.
So our equalized pupil went down
Right.
$700. I can't
Yeah,
remember
it's
the
like
numbers you said.
14.5 or something.
That was
So,
an incredible
you know,
decrease.
If we have, I don't know what our equalized pupil count's gonna be, but if it's higher than it was last year, we've already got math going in our favor for
Right.
the 2.11.
Right.
I think it's gonna be equal.
It'll probably be, I bet it'll be
Well, you
about the
gotta-
same.
But you're right, Keith, but it doesn't affect.
I know,
Yeah,
it's apples and oranges.
Yeah, that's why it's hard.
But we use both, though. We use
Yeah.
both. We clearly, the conversation that I think you're asking for, and I don't think you're gonna get an answer tonight.
No.
The conversation that we've had late in the budget process is when we've gone around and people have said, what's the increase to the baseline that you're comfortable with? It's not about equalized people.
Yeah.
But
we do focus on that number, you're right.
But you know what you focused on last year, which I think that I would be psyched if we focused on it again, is that tax implication number. Remember how close we were to a zero?
Yeah.
Because that's a piece that I think that we could really.
It's a very valid number.
Yeah.
And I've always advocated
Yeah.
against talking about tax rate. It just is confusing. You know, we should focus on budget or equalized pupil. Because tax rates fluctuate because of common level of appraisal and
Based
so
on
many other
what-
things.
Based
So it
on
doesn't-
what we know at the time,
Yeah.
this is what we think will be the ramification or effect.
So I'm looking forward to a discussion on Monday, the 30th.
Yeah. I think that's what we need to do. I mean, the point
Just be
was
glad you're not
to hand
showing
out the
off with
baseline.
1.48.
I'm looking forward to
Hand out the
vacation.
baseline. That was the task
where,
tonight.
where I can put this together for you.
We'll get there.
No, I know we will.
All right, so
Because, I mean,
moving
so much
on.
has changed already since we got these numbers. You know, the working on the special ed and a few other issues, so.
Yeah, let's hope that those aren't realized.
Moving on to 6.0, 6.1 policy. There are a few policies, I've scrolled past them, a few policies that are up for discussion. They are in the packet. The list of them is here. And Cindy, as usual, has put together a nice memo summarizing the changes. And at the risk of overgeneralizing, to me, they look like relatively minor changes.
Yeah. And just a reminder that we try to use the VSBA model policies, try to clarify language where maybe it was confusing previously, making the policy statements at the front, but this is, I think, a packet that's easy to move forward.
All right. Any other discussion on the policies? All right. 6.2, communications. I think last month, we talked about how really the Act 46 committee is taking the laboring oar on communications for board issues. However, we also have some forums coming up and such, so I am at least putting stuff on Front Porch Forum. Today, I put something on about the budget forum. I'll probably shoot another one out tomorrow, and I will do the same thing for the Act 46 one on the 30th. And obviously, at the budget forum on Thursday night, I'm going to mention it to the people that are there as well. I assume all are planning on attending the budget forum?
Wouldn't miss it for anything.
Of course not.
And in your Front Porch Forum notices, could you put the web address, CSSU?
For the Act 46,
Act 46,
yes,
yeah.
yes. I will put a link to that. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. 7.0 action matters. 7.1 approved purchase services. Speaking of SU budget items, the handy dandy chart is in the materials of what purchase services we get from the SU. We talked about it at least once before, possibly at the last 2 meetings, about which services we want. The sentiment of the board was to continue subscribing to all of the services that we get. Now we need to take action on that, so the SU board knows whether we're in or we're out.
Can I make a motion to continue purchasing services as outlined in the packet?
I appreciate that, Bill and Kathy. Any questions or further discussion, or are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the motion made by Bill, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. 7.2, we just added in an adjustment to the agenda. This is related to the Act 46 Study Committee report. Recall that I said that when the Act 46 Study Committee has a report to drafted, which eventually will be submitted to the Agency of Education, we will come back to the board, the local boards, for feedback, for review and feedback from other board members in order to conduct that feedback in a public forum, which we have to do. We are proposing adding a January 19th all board meeting, carousel meeting here at CVU to do that. Do we have the time for that?
Probably 5:30.
Probably 5:30. So I would love a motion to set that for this board.
So moved.
Thank you, Bill, and who was the second? Stacy, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, thank you, the motion carries.
That's good.
All right, thanks, Kathy. We're almost done. Actually, okay. We were gonna have an executive session to talk about something. Okay, all right, I'll bring you up to speed. Thanks. Consent agenda, motion to approve? Thank you, Stacy.
Second.
Thank you, Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Confirm next meeting dates down here on the agenda. November 19th, that's Thursday, the budget forum. November 30, Act 46 forum, budget meeting thereafter. December 14, budget meeting. January 4, budget meeting, and now January 19, board meeting.
I have a question.
Yes.
On the meeting, that's Thursday,
Yeah.
the 19th. Is it at 5:30 or is it 6?
I
Because
have-
Sandy's thing says 5:30.
I have it at 6.
The thing Sandy sent around with the schedule of all the meetings says 5:30. That's why I was confused.
We have 5:30 on the
And I asked for
calendar.
confirmation. and
I think
nobody-
6 and 5:30, so 6 on Thursday, 5:30 on Monday. But I'm,
That's what I have.
Wait, are you talking budget meetings? Thursday, what are we talking?
The
about?
budget forum on Thursday, November 19th, I have at 6
Oh,
o'clock.
I have 6 o'clock also.
Right, because it's the pie meeting, which.
The
right?
PI meeting is thereafter at 6:30.
yeah, so that's, I just found the confirmation date that you and I went back and forth on, Keith. So that's what we're all in agreement on, is 6 o'clock on Thursday, 5:30 on Monday.
Oh, 2 days from now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and 5:30 on Monday, the 30th.
So you said 5:30 is Thursday?
On Monday, the
o'clock.
30th.
I thought you just said 5:30 twice.
Nope.
6 o'clock on the 19th.
So Sandy's schedule that she shared with all of us, it has all the dates and all the times for all the meetings, says 5:30, just for clarity.
So it's
The one
different
that she
here,
just sent
so I
out
don't know.
yesterday or
Mhm.
today?
Yes, that's why I was confused, that's why I asked for confirmation and nobody replied. So I just want to show up at the right time.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
I don't waste a
That's
half
what-
hour sitting
It's
there.
clearly different in the,
That's what Amy
Minutes here,
Frost's message to PI says as well,
Right.
6
Yeah,
o'clock.
and I replied saying, is it 5:30?
No.
I got ignored. Just want to make sure.
that was
The
from
Sandy's
Sandy.
thing says 5:30.
I'll send her.
She's had a gazillion and one.
No, it's fine, it's just that's what I put on my calendar, was based off of that
Yeah.
All right. I added an executive session to the agenda. I'd appreciate if you guys could stay for a couple minutes.
Yep.
So I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. Before we do that, though, thank you guys. Thank you for coming. This
Thanks,
was
you guys.
helpful as, again, a part of our elongated budget process. So, motion for executive session.
So moved.
Yes, to discuss personnel.